What's up, guy? What is up, guy? Welcome back. Welcome back to what Josue has to say. Welcome back to my humble little podcast. I've been out for a bit, a little hiatus, but life is hard. So we're all out here trying to do our best. But today's episode, however, is about a subject that is very near and dear to my heart, and it's why I am the Miamian that I am. It's about Miami water, guy. Miami water. So the importance of Miami water is really what I wanted to get across in this episode, right? If you live in Miami, you use and abuse the water, So whether it's our beaches, our oceans, our boats and hoes, our bay, our rivers, they all serve so many purposes, and we enjoy so much of them, right? And outside from just recreational, there's a lot of actual business and important matters to our waters, right? There's transportation of imports and exports, tourism, marine life, our very own enjoyment, like I said, healing properties of the ocean. There's a myriad of reasons, right? And as fellow Miamians, the majority of us not only enjoy it, but it's the reason we have tourism and economy, right, in our city. Without Miami water, there is no Miami. We'd just be another fucking city like the rest of this fucking nation, right? So because of this, I've brought in my own little panel of experts. Just kidding. I just picked up these guys in the middle of the street. Nah, I'm joking. I want them to really help me out with this subject, right? Because I don't know much about the Bay except what I've experienced as a regular civilian, So we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of the surrounding bodies of water, the current health, and how we can be better citizens to our home. So each of these men, in my opinion, like I said, are the perfect duo, right? Not only are they Miami citizens, but they have an extreme love for the water. We got Alex Wexler, he's an avid boater, fisherman, and he spends his days out in the water. I think you're out on the water every time I see you, surfing around a boat. And he's also an artist. He does marine life art. And then we got Kabir Parker, a marine biologist. So what a better mix of individuals to come and help me out with this, right? So let's introduce you to these guys. Alex, you're up first.
Thank you, Josue. Yeah, my name is Alex. I'm a marine artist and avid fisherman here in Miami, starting to learn a little bit of spear fishing from my co-partner in this podcast here from Kabir. And I'm originally from the Jersey Shore and have been here for about 10 years and moved here for exactly the reason that you said. Really came here because this is a big metropolis right next to the ocean. And it's amazing, you get 3 miles away from downtown Miami and you're looking at what you could consider to be you get 3 miles away from downtown Miami and you'd think you're in the Bahamas or something.
Crazy,
really
yeah.
Beautiful waters and reefs and just awesome things to see. So that's what brought me here.
You gotta take care of it, baby. Tell us a little bit why do you go out fishing? I know you go out on the boat all the time. You're out there, you're swimming, you're surfing, you're boating.
Yeah.
Why?
It's my passion. It's what I love. I always have. I think a big part for me is just the rewards you get from being out there. You put a lot of time, money, energy, effort into what we do, into just being out on the ocean, I got to figure out a boat and where do you launch the boat? And there's just a lot of steps, a lot of things you have to do. But the rewards when you're out there is really what it's about. You see a lot of really cool things.
Absolutely. There's one thing that I really admire about Alex, and it's the fact that we visit the same areas often. So when I see him out on the beach, like after sunset, he's usually out there with our friend Bobby. Shout out Bobby. He's cleaning up the beach. He doesn't have to do that, but there's tons of people that go, not just tourists, but civilians too, that, people that live in Miami and they trash it and they just don't pick up their shit. And, thanks to people like Alex that care, no, he doesn't have to do that. You know what I mean? But thank you for not being a piece of shit, Alex. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Kabir, you're up, baby. Tell people who the fuck you are.
What's up, y'all? My name is Kabir Parker. So my story in getting to Miami is a bit international. I was born in Connecticut, but I was raised in New Delhi, India. And there I had the most amazing opportunity of diving some of the most pristine coral reefs in the Indian Ocean. And as I would go back year after year, I was starting to notice that the reefs were in declining condition. And it made me realize that the coral reefs that I had learned to call home were in danger of extinction. And it was in that moment when I was like 10 years old, I realized I dedicated my life towards the ocean's conservation and preservation. And now I just graduated from the University of Miami. I studied marine science and microbiology, so I'm a big Erasmus guy, or Rosenstiel School. and now I'm
Get
working
it.
on some startups to clean up Biscayne Bay. Yeah.
Do we have that issue in Miami, the one you spoke of that made you a marine biologist?
Yeah, so the coral reefs here in Miami, here in Florida, are functionally extinct. So the coral loss is from 95 to 99%. They're basically all gone.
So you're saying there's a chance of reviving them?
I'm afraid not, but there still is a chance for Biscayne Bay, which is why we're here talking about this today.
Okay, awesome. So a little background on the topic. It's a little long-winded, but I think it's necessary for the purpose of this discussion. Florida, right? Florida, we have 8,000 miles of coastline and over 800 miles of beaches that help us enjoy and relax. They're a cornerstone of the economy. They help with climate regulation, which means nature naturally assisting in regulating the climate, such as greenhouse gases, atmospheric chemical compositions, weather patterns. If you haven't noticed by now, I copy and pasted this. It provides us with food and protection from natural hazards. No, but it's important to know, you know?
Damn right.
But let's emphasize on the economy exactly, because that's unfortunately what most people care about. And if you present apparel to their pocket, then they'll probably listen. So that's what we're doing here. So visiting a beach and a waterway is the #1 activity for Florida's tourists, right? It's the biggest draw to our $112 billion annual tourism revenue. Almost 500,000 people are directly employed in our ocean economy, that's insane. That's a lot of fucking people. And all of this, Florida's tourism industry, job market, recreation environment, and even Florida's culture depends on the fucking water. When you think of Florida, you think of sunshine and water. That's all we fucking have. And crazy ass Florida man. So, but Florida's waterways are also particularly vulnerable to pollution because of our low elevation, porous limestone geology. You could tell us more about that, because I don't know. The dangerous dredging projects, discharge of millions of gallons of toxic chemicals, waste, fertilizers, all of this shit into literal shit into our waterways, thousands of pounds of trash, and the threat of sea level rise.
Dude, all this reminds me of the Simpsons movie.
the
Yeah, they're
movie?
gonna put a dome on us any second.
Oh
now.
my god. I mean,
Oh god.
you know, haven't they predicted everything until
Everything.
now?
Everything.
They have, seriously.
Everything goes back to the Simpsons.
We're missing the
Gotta
fucking
give
dome.
Matt
Maybe
Groening credit.
maybe Miami will fall right outside the dome. You know how Miami kind of escapes everything that's going on in the country, just like besides hurricanes, but like, you know, man. So with all that being said, right? I want to start off with the bay, Biscayne Bay. I talked to some buddy of mine about the bay, what he knew about the bay before I made the episode, and he knows a little bit about everything. He was like, bro, I don't know much about bay. I'm like, if he doesn't know shit, I don't know shit, then nobody knows shit, you know? So that's kind of the reason why I wanted to make this episode. So since most people don't know much about the bay, I decided to read up on it, and I read an article in 2018 by NOAA, N-O-A-A, that's right, that stated that poor water quality could impact Biscayne Bay economy eventually, right? This is something that's impending.
No shit.
I mean, people don't, all we
Yeah.
care about is
Yeah.
tits and drinking and
Well, just to
Sunshine.
say too, I mean, it amazes me the amount of people that I meet from Miami that have no idea what's just off the shores.
it's crazy, right?
Like, to me, it's mind blowing because
you would think they live like in fucking Idaho or some shit.
yeah, like unless they're going out to the sandbar, you know, they're like, oh, I know where Nixon Sandbar is. You know, it's like
Boats and Hoes, baby. Shout out
Yeah.
Boats and Hoes.
But it blows my mind, like the amount of people that I talk to that I'm like, oh, you haven't, tried going snorkeling over here or check this out, or you show people pictures and they're like, that reef's off Miami, and you're like, yeah,
It's crazy.
that's-
Dude, I mean, I've never been snorkeling.
yeah.
And I'm
Well, you gotta
30
go.
years, born and raised.
Really?
You go 12 miles south,
Those are
and it's some really beautiful diving, shallow water too. It's like, yeah, and the water on the right day, the conditions are really good.
I'll put you on the spot now in front of all these people and
Take
whenever
you
wanna
diving.
Take me.
All right, you put me on your podcast, so I'll take you diving.
I can leverage you for this. A little bit about Biscayne Bay before we begin the actual discussion. So, Biscayne Bay is an estuary. That's another new word that I learned, which is a body of water, right? Which it's more than one river or rivers flow into. That's what I kind of gathered, and it's home to our Biscayne National Park, the largest marine park in the U.S. System. Oleta River State Park, Bill Baggs Cape Florida State Park, the Biscayne Bay Aquatic Preserve, Barnacle State Historic Site. I've never been to any of these places. I have no idea, which is what you were saying. and numerous local parks. The bay is also the location for our Port of Miami, which is where we get all of our cruises, import, export, hint, hint, economy. That's a big one. And the bay essentially means many things to many people. It's not just that, you know. Like I said, it's a chunk of our economy. It's a source of environmental education and recreation. Its water shores are used for seafood wholesale businesses, which is, and it's it's fish, you know, like come to Miami, you eat seafood. Sailing, boating, snorkeling, swimming, bay viewing, sunbathing. I'm really trying to emphasize the fucking point of Biscayne Bay and its importance. But more importantly, the bay is ecologically significant, supporting and nurturing an enormous variety of wildlife, which is directly correlated to the health of the bay. You know, so if the wildlife goes to shit, the bay goes to shit, the economy goes to shit, and everything about Miami just goes to shit. That's what I'm trying to gather here. So, Kabir, let's start off with you. Tell us a little bit about your experience with Biscayne Bay, positive, negative, like whatever it is that you got. Like, what have you witnessed on the bay, underwater, above water, whatever, and then we'll ask Alex.
Sure, yeah. So, guys, let's present the problem here. So we have the bay is extremely nutrient polluted. So we have septic tanks leaking sewage, there's stormwater runoff, there is flooding, there is wastewater that's not being treated properly that's entering the bay, and it turns the bay into this massive nutrient dump, which proliferates, which allows all these microalgae in the water to proliferate and expand and have these create massive amounts.
You can't be using words like proliferate in this podcast, okay? Unless you're going to explain them. Because
I'm like, damn, what am I going to say?
I knew this one was that. I've kind of butchered that too.
No, it was great. Just explain what the fuck proliferate is. We're leaving this in. This is gold.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
The algae expands. No. All right, I'm going to redo that. All right, guys, so let's present the problem of what's going on in Biscayne Bay. So we have septic tanks leaking sewage. There is agricultural runoff, meaning fertilizers and pesticides being due to flooding and hurricanes and everything. It pushes that onto the water. We have wastewater that's not being treated properly, and all of those are packed full of nutrients, and they are being pushed into Biscayne Bay. And that creates these massive algae blooms that, when the algae dies off, turns the whole bay anoxic, meaning there's no oxygen left and all the animals die. So I think all of us remember the 2020 clusterfuck that happened in Biscayne Bay, where all the manatees died, all the fish were dying, all the rays, the octopus.
The red tide situation?
The red tide, yeah. The red tide, Carenia brevis. And it totally destroyed the bay. And it was a massive wake-up call. And it made us all realize that the bay is extremely fragile and we have to do something about it.
Have you noticed anything yourself physically out there? Like, what have you seen with your own two eyes? Like diseased wildlife, or I don't know, corals damaged, like you said, or right, algae. Like, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so Biscayne Bay in its natural state is absolutely fucking beautiful. I was stone crabbing with my friend, which is just like, you're literally like free diving in like 3 feet of water, and you're stick your hand inside holes to try and grab a crab, and you're hoping that there's no eel in there. You're hoping that you're not going to get pinched. It is just a whirlwind of fun and not fun, because it's also really hard.
When I do that, I also
really
hope for the
difficult.
same when I put my
And it was
arm
insane.
inside.
But anyway, as we were out there diving, literally 3 feet of water, just these beautiful seagrass beds, nice visibility. There were tons of amazing reef fish around us. There were all these little black grouper, hogfish, mutton snappers, lobsters. There is an immense amount of life that these seagrass ecosystems support. And with all the nutrients that are now entering the waters, we are unfortunately noticing an ecosystem out of balance, and it's actually shifting the whole thing. It's becoming, we're going from seagrass dominated to algae dominated, and that is not a good sign for any of the marine life in there.
And this is something that our local governments could probably help with, right? With restrictions or penalties or whatever, just like the way to actually be able to dump things in the right locations or whatnot.
Exactly. Better stormwater management, better wastewater treatment, less use of fertilizers. And what my startup is potentially working on is actually growing seaweed as a natural filter, a process called bioremediation, to clean up the water on its own.
Well, I feel very stupid. So, Alex,
how am I going to compete with that?
I mean, you'll find something. What are some things you've seen out there on the bay? Beautiful, not so beautiful. Like, you're out there all the time, yeah.
The further you get away from the city, the prettier it gets.
Well, that makes a whole lot of sense,
right?
Doesn't it?
like, and it's It's interesting because it's crazy to see a lot of these fish still existing in these areas that just look like shit, you know? So that's really interesting to see.
Honestly, I thought that was a really good point, that the further away from Miami you go,
Yeah.
the healthier the bay is, which is a big wake-up call.
So I want to talk a bit about algae blooms, right?
Mm.
Essentially explain what algae blooms are, how we can avoid the exacerbation of algae blooms. They're a negative thing, right? I mean, there's some positive and some negative, but there's some that we, I think, through pollution make too much of.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So I did my homework a little bit.
Yeah, so algae are marine plants, and so they like the same substrates, the same nutrients that plants on land that use. So when we are doing these mass scale, like sugar farming, for instance, up in and around Lake Okeechobee, all those nitrogen and phosphorus-based fertilizers are leaking into Lake Okeechobee, and then Lake Okeechobee leaks into Port St. Lucie and the bay here, and puts in all that nitrogen and phosphorus into the water. Then all the algae that are naturally there, but also we're going to point out Carenia brevis, which is the red tide, which is the big one. They assimilate and they absorb all of those nutrients that all plants love and bloom like mad. And the issue with that is that when that process stops, all that algae is there. It no longer has any nutrients, and so it all dies all at once. And that respiration, which is just the opposite of photosynthesis, the algae are decomposing, and that rips out all the oxygen out of the water and turns it into these massive dead zones of no oxygen areas, which kills everything in the water because everything needs oxygen to breathe.
That's okay. Pretty clear,
Yeah,
concise.
I think it's important to note too. I don't know if you've seen like everything going on the West Coast with the red tide there right now.
No.
It's-
At this moment?
Yeah,
I haven't heard
so
about it
it's like it's the worst it's been so far. There's a lot of seen a lot of videos of stuff of just right up next to these like mansions on the water is just thousands and thousands of dead fish.
Jesus, dude.
Everything from little bait fish up into the apex predator fish like the tarpon, big Goliath groupers and everything.
That was like being
There's one video
Oh,
of
yeah,
these
yeah,
guys
yeah.
with the big crane
Gosh.
pulling the.
I saw it was massive.
So
It was
that's the
like,
kind of
500
stuff
pounds.
that can in turn affect us as well because all the water from Okeechobee still flows down this way.
your jersey came out water.
Oh, did it? Yeah, that's the one that people say it comes out on.
No, we just had a similar scenario. I think it was sometime last year, where our bays here on Biscayne, we had people volunteer to pick up so many dead fish. You don't remember? This was I think a year ago or less
I think
than a year ago.
that's what he was
Oh,
referring
that's
to
what you were
earlier.
referring to earlier.
Yeah.
2020 fish kill.
Okay, that. It's fucking nuts.
It's gonna
man.
happen here, like in a couple months, as all that water works its way down here. The same thing's gonna happen.
Well, not just that, but at least like that brings me to the next, I guess, idea. 'Cause it was only a question, but the beaches that we frequent, right? We've been going there for years, and at least I've noticed that every year that brown seaweed. I don't know if it's related to
Sargasm weed.
What's it called?
Sargasm.
Sarcasm weed.
Sarcasm.
I don't, so it's related. So I noticed that every year it just gets worse and worse, and the city just comes and bulldozes it like in the middle of the night, and then the water will be clear for like a week or two tops, and then it'll start like coming in mass more and more. And then when I'm walking down the park, which overlooks the bay, I'm assuming that's where it's coming from. Like it's also all over the bay.
No.
No, that's
No,
different.
that comes off of, and he can definitely speak more towards it, but that comes off of Africa.
Really?
So, yeah, so that's coming
That's
from
just
the
coming
ocean.
all the way from Africa.
That's coming from the ocean. Yeah. And
Oh,
that's what you
the
were,
seaweed?
the sargasm weed.
Sorry, it comes from the Sargasso Sea in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
by Africa area or whatever.
Well, no, I think just the middle of the Atlantic.
Okay, middle of the
Yeah,
Atlantic.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's still fucking far as fuck.
Oh, yeah. But the issue with sargassum is that naturally it is an amazing open ocean habitat. I'm sure you've fished mahi and wahoo off of those all the time. When they're offshore, they create these amazing little ecosystems where it's a place for little fish to hang out, and then bigger and bigger fish are hunting those fish, and it creates this sick, amazing environmental spectacle to witness if you're actually diving them. They're beautiful. But with due to industrial agriculture putting in all the nitrogen and all the phosphorus, these nutrients into the ocean, it's actually affected the Sargasso Sea hundreds of thousands of miles offshore because we've now put those nutrients even in the open ocean. And now because of that, there's way too much sargassum. There's too much. It is no longer a naturally good thing for the environment. There is too much washing up along shore, and it's even causing baby sea turtles to die because they can't crawl over it. It's an
Baby sea
environmental
turtles,
disaster.
guys. Baby sea turtles.
Yeah, it's a serious thing, man. And I think it costs the city like $20 million every year just to clean up.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a waste of fucking money when they could just like restrict more like the way you know, just be cleaner. So I guess the common thing that I'm really seeing with, and I could be, correct me if I'm wrong, is that a lot of the issues that we're currently facing with our ocean environments or bay environment, or health, whatever, is just natural occurring phenomenon that are being exacerbated by our pollutants, and then that in turn, that exacerbation in turn, is just killing everything or just being a negative impact on the health of our.
100%.
That's exactly it. We're throwing natural ecosystems and natural phenomena out of balance.
We're losing balance. Gotcha. Okay.
And the other thing too is that it's not just here; it's all connected, right? Because it's water, so water flows and moves between different places. And so what's happening in the Sargasso Sea is, you know, affecting us because of what we're putting into the water here. Same with Lake Okeechobee coming and all that area dumping the fertilizers into the water. That's going to affect us here. So everything with water is connected to whatever it touches.
You know what's something crazy that I learned? So you know how in spearfishing and fishing, like a lot of people think it's a good thing once you fillet your fish to throw it back into the ocean because it like you're putting the nutrients back into the ecosystem. So I spoke to this guy that is really intelligent, and he did his PhD in nutrient uptake or something to do with nutrients in the ocean. And I did that and I posted it on my Instagram, and he called me out and he said, "Don't do that. The ocean is now nutrient overloaded." And so that
goes back to the balance thing.
That's nutrient overloaded. So it's actually in the ocean's best interest every time you catch a fish and fillet it, to put that fillet or to put the carcass, put it underground, keep it on land. Even that.
Wow.
The total amount of nutrients in the ocean is now too much. So it's a huge thing in our spearfishing community to say that, we're putting the nutrients back into the ecosystem by putting the carcass back in. We shouldn't be doing that anymore.
It goes back to the balance thing. It can't be too much, too little. It's got to be just right.
Yeah.
Like Goldilocks is fucking porridge.
And that blew my mind.
Yeah. I would have never thought about that.
And no one's talking about it.
Well, we're talking about it on this podcast episode, whatever the fuck I'm running here. I don't know what I'm doing. No, that's crazy. That's good to know. I wanted to touch also on, before I move forward, what can we do as individuals, right? Besides our local governments actually putting restrictions on here and doing their part, I guess, we could also demand that they do their part. And, I saw on Senate for the Sea, they were calling out City of Miami because there was a construction crew and they were just throwing like a bunch of sediment or something down the drain, and that's terrible. So
there's a lot of like cement and construction dust.
Right.
That goes into the canals and then goes into
So aside from our governments putting more restrictions on things like that, what could we do as individuals that you guys to protect, to do the best we can?
If you want to help out, I think you live in Miami and you have a yard, I would not use as much fertilizer, as much pesticide. But also, I'm actually starting a startup to use seaweed to clean up Biscayne Bay. And if you would just come out and support me, that'd also help as well. Not going to lie.
Heard it here, guys.
Yeah.
Support Kabir. Okay.
I'd say support Kabir because
Okay,
I believe in what he's doing. No, I mean that's a really tough question, honestly, because not everybody has a yard on the water, right? So if people want to help, like, what can you do?
I'll say yard anywhere because the water's going to go in the storm water and the storm drains and then go into the bay either way.
Yeah,
so
right.
No matter what.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's a really good point, and it's a tough question to answer. It's one of those things where I think it's really about finding the people who are going to make the difference in politics and change that, support them, would be a really big thing to do.
I think it's the right politicians and the right business leaders, because this isn't like, my neighbor Sally put her fertilizer in, all of a sudden the bay's ruined. It's a societal thing. It's an industry-wide issue that the source stems from. And so as individuals, there's not much we can do on an individual basis, but if we go out and support the big players in the right way, then that's when change really happens.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like with beach cleanups. You know, there's like 150 million metric tons of plastic going to the ocean every single year. And if you clean up a beach every day, like, you're not actually having a big net impact, but you're educating yourself, you're educating your neighbors, and that roller coaster snowball effect into bigger and bigger change, which is why those beach cleanups are actually so powerful. It's the awareness. It's not actually cleaning up the plastic.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great to know. Good shit. I wanted to touch next on seagrass, right? Alex did mention when I thought about doing this episode, one of the topics we should speak on was seagrass, and I didn't know anything about it, and I still kind of don't know anything about it. So between you guys, can you know, explain to me what it is, why it's important, how we're fucking it up, and how we can stop fucking it up. Basically.
Yeah. I mean, Kabir can, since this is his forte, probably go more into it. But from my limited knowledge of it, seagrasses and kelp and things like that, not that we have that here, but that can actually displace more carbon than the rainforest can. So there's a really, really, you know, I found that fact out the other day, and got really interested in it because in order to like neutralize it, we need to do things to neutralize our carbon. That's just a known thing. You know, there's way too much of it in the atmosphere. And so, but nobody's really looking at seagrasses or things of that nature to do that. And I think it's a really good opportunity for us to look into some of that.
That's an excellent point. Seagrasses are one of the biggest places of storage for carbon dioxide. We call it blue carbon.
How does that work? It's underwater.
So literally, it's a plant that photosynthesizes and assimilates that uses carbon dioxide to create oxygen, but it wants as much carbon dioxide as it can to grow. So it literally takes the carbon, puts it into its biomass, and then just keeps it there.
So the water collects the carbon. And
So there's,
then it goes
there's
into
oxygen and there's CO2 in the water.
in the water.
Yeah, and so the plant literally just sucks it up. Yeah, and it's and if you have a lot, you're reversing climate change, which is why seaweed again is so powerful. And so seagrasses are just a type of marine plant. It's a macroalgae, and they support a phenomenally diverse little ecosystem inside Biscayne Bay that supports, for one thing, the biggest thing for me and for us as fishermen is it supports a lot of the juvenile reef fish use that as a nursery habitat. And so it is extremely important that we keep that ecosystem especially intact because everything in the ocean is connected, as we discussed. If we lose the seagrasses, then all of a sudden all of our reef fish are going to end up dying out because there's no place for the juveniles to go.
Wow.
And they're already
It's like everything's a domino effect.
Yeah. It's again shifting things out of balance. And I think it was like something like 90% in certain areas of Biscayne Bay. Already 90% of seagrasses have died. So we need to get on this fucking now.
How?
Through the water becomes too saline. There's not enough fresh water input from the canals because it's too polluted. There's too many nutrients coming in. There's the stormwater. There's the septic tanks. All of that.
Yeah, and even people being aware of the areas where seagrass is thriving right now and not using it as a sandbar to anchor your boat up at. That's another.
Oh, well, that's a big topic we have to address right now, I think.
That's another thing, you know. And it is right, like it's not the thing that's killing all the seagrasses, but it's something to be aware of, right? If we only have a little bit of it.
Me, as you know, a boats and hose guy, how can I be aware of seagrass, where it's at, and how to not fuck it up?
So definitely with your boat, and you can speak about this more because I don't have one, is you stay within the channels and you make sure
the best boat is your friend's boat.
Do that. And okay, so the one thing that I would say to everyone who's a boater in Miami, because that's a great reason a lot of us come to Miami in the first place, is access to the water and being on boats. Is to be very aware of where the seagrass beds are. It's just the dark patches in the bay. Like if an area is light, it looks like sand, it's sand. If it's darker, then it's seagrass. And because otherwise, what I've seen is a lot of videos of this have gone around on social media now, is people running over the seagrass and they get stuck.
Yeah.
And then they're blasting their engine, trying to get through it, and eventually they do, but they wreck and destroy the seagrass that was there beforehand. And that stuff actually takes years, decades, and sometimes never even grows back because it's very, very fragile. We have to be really careful about our boat motors because they can.
So when you recognize it you can recognize it through the water when
Yeah,
so
you're gonna see it.
Yeah, don't be in super shallow water, and just look for the dark patches and make sure to avoid them. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. It's just a couple idiots that are ruining for the rest of us and are actually destroying the ecosystem in little parts here and there.
Those are good things to know. You know, I hope at least one person sees this and they're like, "Damn, okay, let me just look out for that shit next time."
Yeah, just be cognizant. You know, there's plenty of patches that exist where you can just anchor up right on sand.
So with that all being said, I mean, maybe that's the end of this topic, or I'm not sure, but is there any more? I want to touch on conscious boating, right? Just being a good boater. What are some steps that we can all do to, while we're out there having fun, enjoying our water, enjoying our home, getting drunk, how can we consciously boat? You know, how can we not fucking hit a manatee with my fucking propeller and kill it, and you know how you see all the type of that type of shit here.
Well,
Alex, take it away.
One thing is not be drunk and driving the boat. It's probably
Said
a
I
good,
was on the boat and said I was driving the boat.
good place to start. Definitely take your boating safety courses. You know, as lame as it sounds, it's going to teach you about the water. It's going to teach you what to look for, and it's going to teach you etiquette. With the rules, but really it's etiquette too.
Which is crazy because, sorry to interrupt you, but a friend of mine a while back got a ticket driving.
The boat?
Yeah, but then he ended up getting his boater's license, but it wasn't required. I don't remember why he got the ticket. So it's
I
like,
think it's if you're born after 1986, by law you need to have the boating safety course license, which is stupid because so many people just buy a boat when they're 40, buy a boat when they're 50, you know, and just get out there and they think that there's no rules. They think they can do whatever they want because there's no guardrails, right? But there is a great value into just knowing that you're not going to be an asshole out there, you know, of the right way to approach a marker, what the markers mean, things like that, what the warning signs are, the hazardous areas, and and it's also safety, you know, not hurting anyone. I was at the sandbar just this weekend, anchored up with my girlfriend, hanging out, and a boat just comes plowing through, probably 20 yards away from us, almost on full plane in like a foot and a half of water. The guy's going to get stuck. So I'm yelling, I'm like, hey, slow down.
Yeah.
And it was very close to a seagrass area. And I'm like, hey, slow down. And he's like yelling at me back just to yell because on boats, that's what people do. They just yell at each other. And I was legit, like he was going to wake my boat out and everything. But more than that, he was going to hurt the people on his boat. You know, he hits the ground and somebody hits their head or something. You know, anything can happen.
I mean, yeah, there's accidents out there all the time. That's wild, man. Any other boating? That's pretty much it.
Be cognizant of manatee zones.
Oh yeah, manatee
wake
zones.
Wake zones, right?
Yeah.
A lot of signs you'll see too, like particular times a year. I like this that they do that, and I don't know if they do it here, but I know up in Fort Lauderdale on the intercoastal up there, there's particular times a year that they know the manatees are there. So there's certain zones during those times of years where it's slow speed, and then when they know the manatees aren't typically there, you can run, right? So it's cool to understand that balance of you know, how we can interact with the environment around us in a really safe way.
Awesome. It's important, man. Come on, let's do our job. Let's do our part, man. This is our home. We gotta take care of it, right?
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention, you know, since we're all on social media all the time, I personally have been following for a while 2 Miami pages. I think the second is also a Miami page that, you know, you could just keep on your feet, you know, just to see what's going on with our bay and just to kind of like be like, you know, Kabir and Alex said, to be cognizant of what's going on around us. And it's one of them is Miami Waterkeeper, so at Miami Waterkeeper, and the second one is at Send It for the Sea. The 4 is a number 4, so Send It number 4 the sea. Follow these pages, you know, just keep it there in the back of your mind so at least you know, run into it and see what's going on. Do you guys know any other pages or things that people could follow just to kind of like?
I think there's one called Clean This Beach Up.
Okay.
And it's a grassroots movement here that's, you know, they post beach cleanups and things like that all around Miami. So it's not, sometimes they're in South Beach, sometimes they're up by 79th Street. So you know, follow them and see when they're going to be in your area and go support, you know, start cleaning this place up because a little bit goes a long way. And it's true too, what you said before about, you know, when people see you clean up trash, they want to clean up
it's
their
the
trash
awareness.
too.
It's kind of like when you're in traffic and you give a bum $1, and then like every other car like feels like, damn, I didn't give them $1, so let me just give them $1. Like you start kind of like a domino effect. Not everybody, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
That man, I was on the coast. I was on the coast in India a couple of months ago. It was where I'm from, and it's India, so there's plastic on the beaches everywhere. It's awful, and people just walk by and don't care. But as soon as my mom and I started, we took this bag, we started cleaning up. All of a sudden, literally everyone on the beach was picking it up.
That's
So it just
awesome,
takes one
dude.
person to get started. And I do want to shout out to Rachel Silverstein, the Miami Waterkeeper. They are a brilliant NGO that is doing all the hard science to get us the data that we need to clean up Biscayne Bay. So they are the real deal. Miami Waterkeeper is definitely the NGO to look out for when it comes to cleaning up Biscayne Bay and making us all aware of what's going on.
I learned a lot through their website, so thanks, Rachel.
Rachel Silverstein.
Rachel
Yeah,
Silverstein.
she's great.
Thank you.
Hey, one thing I wanted to mention too, just
Go
because
ahead.
we were talking a little bit about plastic pollution. I was talking to a friend the other day who they were in France, and I never knew this, but France, the area she was in that's on the coast, all the businesses are not allowed to have plastic.
Really?
Yeah.
So
I
kind of
love
like the
that.
beach that stopped plastic straws. Like now you can't.
Sure.
But-
Yeah, but
like
this is
similar.
like no single-use plastics, which is amazing.
Yeah,
And I don't know how you
reduce the
adapt
risk
something
of
like
it,
that,
Yeah,
but-
100%.
I think that could be really cool and something to push for.
Specifically, yeah, those coastal cities like
Yep.
yeah, Miami Beach. That's actually a great idea. Listen up, Francis Suarez, and the rest of you. Or he's not even the mayor of Miami Beach. Dan Gilbert, whatever your name is. There's also that sparked in me. There was another company that I heard of years ago, and I actually bought some of their merchandise just to donate. They're called Plastic Bank. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Mm-mm.
So they're actually really, really cool. So what Plastic Bank does is they set up in third world countries, India, Haiti, things like that, where that issue that you spoke of, that there's a lot of trash and plastic on the beach. And when they set up, they kind of provide jobs for the locals that don't have jobs. So they basically tell the locals, hey, go pick up plastic, right? Whatever amount of plastic you bring me, you bring that back, and we give you, I don't know if it's actual currency or the equivalent. So we'll give you Wi-Fi for like this amount of plastic that you. So it's encouraging like the locals that to pick up their own homes in their home areas, and you're still working and receiving back some sort of like, currency or service or something. So I thought that was such a great idea because you're incentivizing your own people to
Yep.
people to be part of it, and they work and they're getting something back. So
It's awesome.
Plastic Bank.
Another page too to mention, Captains for Clean Water. It's an
Okay.
organization here in Florida. They're based, I think, in Tallahassee, and they do a lot of the work with the algae blooms and things like that. That's happening in Lake Okeechobee. So they're really on it, and definitely very informative content.
Okay, good to know. Captains for what?
Clean water.
Captains for Clean Water. Okay, I'll follow them on.
That's a dope name.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys?
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Thank you guys for coming and joining.
Viva Cuba Libre.
We scheduled this episode like 4 times in a row, and shit just kept coming up. So finally, but it's episode 13, so there you go. That's why.
Yeah.
Superstition.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys. Hopefully this, I think, at least someone will change their perspective on things. So
Awesome.
all right, that's all the time we got for today. Thank you for tuning in. I'll try and keep the episodes more current. Maybe not. I don't know. Have yourselves a good day. And as always, no se meta con nadie para que nadie se las meta. Have a good one.